Salvatore Miki and welcome. My name is Noddy7, General of the Albatross Legion, strategy game streamer and YouTuber. Welcome to another video in our EU4 beginners tutorial series, where today we're going to discuss subjects and all of their many uses. As always, these videos are designed for beginner players to the game. I'm trying to help newer players understand some of the subtleties and nuances that come with the game. Seasoned players might find these tutorials slightly less informative, but I find even now with thousands of hours in the game, I still learn a lot. So in this video, I plan to speak to the 6 major, if you like, different types of subjects you can have within the game. These being vassals, marches, personal unions, Colonial Nations, tributaries, and to a lesser extent trade companies. These are all a combination of direct subjects and some more indirect ones. The main focus will be around vassals and personal unions and the basics of them, but I decided to still talk about the others while we're here. So first up is the ordinary vassal. So we've chosen France because they start with a bunch of vassals, you can see here. So vassals are your basic subject nation. They pay a percentage of their income to you. They field their own army based off their development. However, their own personal diplomatic options are very limited. So if you were to play a vassal, which is possible in the game, I could start as one of France's vassals. Very little diplomatic options. I can't declare wars other than my own independence. I can't make allies other than trying to get support for independence. So it's very limited options that you can do as a vassal. There are a number of different interactions you can do with your vassals, including but not limited to giving them land, paying off their debt, and reducing their liberty desire at the cost of prestige. So we can see, if we go into interactions here, can take their trade, give them provinces, take land back off them. So there's lots of different options there. They also contribute to my own maximum force limit. So if we go in here, we have to go military tab. And if we look at my current army force limit, you can see my vassals are giving me 1.5, 1.4, 1.4, 1.8. So they increase my force limit, my capability of holding troops. They can also recruit their own generals and their own army for their armies, and their armies can be directed somewhat by you through the use of the interactions tab here. So you can give them different automatic kind of instructions. So you can tell them to siege, and if you declare war, they'll go and try and siege provinces. You can also tell the whole lot of them to do that, or you can tell them as supportive. And then you can tell them to attach to your army, and in war they will try and attach to your army and move around with you. And finally, you can give them direct objectives, like you could tell them to take this province if we got into a war with England. It's not perfect, it doesn't work all the time, it works most of the time though. So after being a subject for 10 years and having good relations with your vassals, you can annex them. So you can see in here, if we go to influence actions, you can annex a nation which has been your vassal for 10 years. So it tells us the date that we can annex them, and we need to have 190 opinion, and it will cost us 400 diplo points to annex them. It takes more time and costs more diplo points based on the development of your subjects, and it goes faster based on your own diplo rep. Vassals can be acquired in several different ways. So you can create a vassal by releasing them from within your nation. So you can see all the vassals we can release here. The nation you want to release requires them to have cores on your provinces, and those cores must be of the primary culture of the nation. So for example, we couldn't take, let's say for example Scotland had a core on Northumberland here, and that was the only Scottish province we owned with a Scottish core, we couldn't release Scotland because it's English culture, not Scottish. Just as an example of how that interaction works. Second option is you can diplomatically vassalize people. So you can see here the offer vassalization option under Navarra. So this requires us to have a military alliance, have 190 relations, and they must be at peace. So technically we could ally them, marry them, improve relations, and we could diplomatically vassalize them. It incurs 0 aggressive expansion, which is why it's one of the best reasons to diplo vassalize, but obviously it's very limited by their size, so there's an economic factor that goes into whether or not you can offer diplo vassalization. So you can see, for example, even Brittany, who's not a whole lot bigger, absolutely no chance because of that that economic base compared to ours. So Brittany's got, I mean, they've got quite a chunk more development than Navarra, but still, you can see it's not easy to diplo vassalize bigger nations. And the final option is to take a vassal in war. So what we're going to do quickly is I am going to we're going to declare war. Well, we're going to have to let the time pass. So I'm also going to marry Castile while we've got a bit of spare time, because that's going to be important in a little bit. The game's going to have a heart attack because we are looking at the whole world, because I've got Fog of War turned off and TI turned off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go win wars, and we are going to declare war. On the Byzantines, which will piss some people off, but that's fine. And then as soon as we can, I'm going to send a peace offer. And I will show you. So the cost to vassalize someone in war is usually similar to the cost of their provinces. It's usually a little bit cheaper, I believe, than their cost of their provinces annexing them. So you can see their total province cost is 66. And to vassalize them is 67. Well, it's giving me slightly more. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. You can see the option here. Now, I can't actually show you what it would look like if we were to take the provinces directly, but it would be more aggressive expansion than that. I almost guarantee it. So, the next question is why? Why would we vassalize another nation? What's the good reason to do it? So the first thing is, like I just mentioned, it's generally less AE. So we took 37 for vassalizing them. I would say it probably would have been upwards of 50 if we took those provinces, just straight up took them to call them. Secondly, the value of the land if I'm fighting someone whose land I won't get full value out of. It's often better to vassalize them because they will be getting full value out of it. So a good example of this is Brittany versus someone like Mazab or Togut. So Brittany is Catholic and it is Breton, which is part of the French culture group. So while it's not accepted with us, it is part of our primary group. So we would get quite a lot of value out of this land. We could full core it, make it a state. It's the right religion. It's an accepted culture. It's a culture group. And so we would get quite a bit out of these provinces. On the other hand, if I was to take Mazab, we've got two different wrong religions, two different cultures, neither of which are accepted by me. So Mazab would get more out of this land if I vassalize them than I ever will out of 2-3 development provinces. They would be able to field 2 to 3 troops, get their own general. They wouldn't have any rebellion issues like I would if I took it. So the land is pretty much worthless to me at this point in the game. I wouldn't be able to convert it. It's low development. It's just, I don't have enough unrest to avoid the rebellions that would come from it. So Mazab would get an army and some production and pay me some money for that land. So it's more worthwhile to have them as a vassal at this stage of the game than it would be to actually take the land. The third and final reason to take vassals is to split costs. So conquering the world, or even conquering part of the world, is pretty expensive when it comes to admin to core the land. The reason to take vassals generally is to split that cost. So you give the vassal the land and then you annex the vassal. So the vassal cores the land for you. And then you annex them and you pay dip instead of admin for the land. So it splits the cost. So you conquer and core some, and then you vassalize and annex your vassal. The final reason, which I think I said the other one was the final, but the final most important reason to vassalize people is cores. And that's why I vassalized Byzantium, was to show you guys the cores. So all of these green ones here, these are all cores of Byzantium that they have that they don't own. So we can declare war on the Ottomans for all of these reconquests and take all this land at very low aggressive expansion, and Byzantium will get full value out of them because they will be the correct religion and the correct culture, majority of them. So vassal feeding is a really, really important way to grow in games when you are trying to do conquest heavy, because it helps with aggressive expansion, it helps with costs. They don't have to core any of this, they've already got cores on all of this. So it's a really, really useful way, and it's something to definitely look out for. So for example, let's say for argument's sake that Muscovy lost their initial wars and they get reduced to 3 provinces. We could then vassalize them and reconquest all of this land, as an example, if that were to happen. So it's always important to look for small nations that used to be big that you can potentially vassalize and then feed their land back to them. There's also quite a few that you can kick out of someone. So for example, if we take a look at Leon down here. So Leon's got, how many cores is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Leon's got 6 cores in Spain. So we could take one province of Spain, release Leon, and then feed this land back to them at low AE. And they're also Iberian culture. So they would get more out of this land because it's the right culture group for them. Also, when you're talking about vassals, you can get them to make claims for you. So if you use the diplomatic feedback menu, which you can get into this way, and you tell them that you want this land, as long as they're bordering it, they will generally try and fabricate claims on that land. Also, when talking about claims, vassals have mission trees. So if we go in here and have a quick look at the Byzantium mission tree, if they recover all of Greece, they actually get permanent claims over a whole bunch of other land. And then if they conquer Bulgaria, there's a whole bunch of missions here. If they regain these provinces here, they get a whole bunch of claims all over Rum. So, and they're all permanent claims. So if you fulfill your vassal mission trees, you can get further claims as well. Finally, Liberty Desire, which you can see here, Byzantium's Liberty Desire is quite high. So Liberty Desire is something to keep an eye on when you're dealing with subjects. Most subjects have Liberty Desire, which is impacted by their own development and their own perceived strength of their military forces. So you can see here the relative power of all vassals to France. So it adds up all the power of all my vassals, is adding 71% Liberty Desire to Byzantium. And then their own development is adding 11. The bigger the vassals are, the higher their Liberty Desire will be, but it's also comparative to your own relative strength as well. There's also a bunch of modifiers that can reduce it. Your Diplo rep, your actual opinion of them, and trust can all make it reduce that impact. Right. On to marches. So marches are a subset of vessels. They don't pay you taxes, but they have higher military capability because of it. So they can't be annexed like a normal vessel. If you want to annex a march, you have to convert them back to a normal vessel and then annex them, but that will increase their liberty desire and affect your relations of them. So any vessel can be converted to a march. You just go into the diplomatic menu and you go designate march. They have reduced liberty desire, and basically when you would want to use them would be someone you don't intend on either annexing at all or not annexing for a long time. So you might say Byzantium in this case, we could make them a march and feed them a huge chunk, like all of Bulgaria, all of northern Greece, Thrace, and all of Rum, all of Asia Minor, and have them just as a big beefy march over here, because it's nowhere within our sphere of influence and we're probably not planning on annexing them anytime soon. Another good option is people like Brandenburg or Prussia if they form really strong military ideas. A really good option to vassalize because they're just so strong to have at a heightened military capability. Just a quick side note, at Tech 23 you do get access to client states, which are basically customizable vessels. You release them, you select the provinces you want to give them to, you can create their map color, their name, their flags, everything, and give them whatever provinces you want that you own. They're highly loyal, very customizable. They'll accept the culture of the provinces you give them, so the dominant culture, and they'll always be your state religion. So next up, we have personal unions. I could easily do a whole video on personal unions, but this is a beginner tutorial and I want to try and keep things a little bit more simpler. Personal unions are more or less the same as vassals, although you don't receive any income from them. Also, you can't annex them until you've had them for 50 years in a stable PU. However, after that 50-year time period is up, there is a small chance of automatically inheriting them on your ruler's death, so you don't have to annex them. The costs for annexing them are the same, but if you do inherit them, it's effectively free, and it's based on your Diplo rep and a few other factors. Also, the other big difference is that PUs can break. If the ruler dies, and the junior partner, who, if you have a look in this state, is Portugal, has a negative opinion of the senior, which is me playing Spain, the PU will break. Also, if the Portuguese have pretended rebels and they enforce demands, it will break the personal union. So generally speaking, there's three options on monarch death in EU4 if you don't have an heir. So if your monarch dies without an heir, you got three options. You either flip dynasty, and by that I mean it changes the dynasty of your current ruler to the dynasty of someone you've got a royal marriage with. The second option is you get a PU, and that can either be a free PU or a contested PU. And the third option is an instant inheritance. Now the instant inheritance is very, very rare. There's complexities behind this which have been looked into. You can go and find them on the wiki and online. There's a massive mega thread about it in the EU forums, I believe. But generally the game will tell you what's going to happen if your monarch dies without an heir. As far as getting the PU goes, basically it chooses a rival of yours, and they can either choose to contest the PU or let you have it for free. So if they choose to contest it, they go to war, and you have to fight for the PU. And if they choose not to contest, then it's free. You don't fight anyone for it. But let's look at the dynasty change. So all rulers have a dynasty, and if they die without an heir, their dynasty can change depending on who they're married to. So if we take Russia here, you can see I'm married to them. And you can see the guy's 25 without an heir, and it tells you right there, on noble from House von Habsburg succeeds the throne if he dies. So he doesn't currently have an heir. So just quickly, because I can't remember what the code is for Russia. So if we kill Rus, And we have a quick look. There you go. He's now got a Habsburg on the throne. Same dynasty as myself and Austria. You can see the game tells us that he's going to switch dynasty and what dynasty he'll switch to. Sometimes it'll literally tell you that you're going to get a PU when the ruler dies. And other times, in a case like this, what we would now need to do is actually claim the throne. So we claim the throne of Russia because he doesn't have a legal heir and we've got the same dynasty and we've got a marriage. And then that will allow us to, it will give us the Union CB, so we could declare war and go and make him a subject. So yeah, and effectively we would get, you know, a 1,000 war score Russia as a junior partner. So that's the main way you get PUs. Now the other thing that's really useful with this is this disputed succession tab. So what you can do is you can actually keep an eye on this and go, hey, there's obviously some bugs going on here, but Setten's got apparently a 133-year-old ruler with no heir. So if we married him, there'd be a pretty good chance we would get our dynasty on the throne because he's going to die soon. So there's a good chance he'll die and we'll get the dynasty. There's also tons of missions in the game now for personal unions. So it always pays to, when starting up a new game, to check what missions are available to you and what's in your mission tree. So you can see we have an Austrian succession. So completing this mission here gives us a Union CB on Austria, and also there's a one here that actually gives you, wherever it is, it may not be showing because we've already got the Union. One of these missions is Castile, gives you the CB to Union Portugal. So missions can be really powerful, and the other thing to be aware of when you're starting a new game is in-game events that lead to PUs. So when you're playing as Castile, there's the Iberian Wedding, which is an event that fires with you and Aragon, which gives you Aragon as a subject straight away. When you're playing as Poland, there's the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth event that gives you a union over Lithuania. Obtaining personal unions can be quite powerful, as it can allow you to take over a much larger nation than vassalizing normally would. Like I said, if we look at, say, Austria for the example, with that mission, their current war score is nearly 400. So we would be able to vassalize them effectively in one single war. It'd be a lot of AE, but nowhere near as much as it would to conquer all those provinces in consecutive wars. So playing the personal union game can be a very powerful mechanic in EU4. Once you learn how it works, you can start to fish for those dynasty changes by looking at the disputed successions, and you can really build yourself a bunch of quite powerful subjects. As I stated, it allows you to take big, strong nations and vassalize them effectively, you know, as opposed to only being able to vassalize a small nation in a war. You can vassalize an entire strong country and have them under your control. So it can be quite a powerful thing to be able to do. And once you learn how they work, the ins and outs of them, it can be really strong for your campaigns. So next up, we're going to take a quick look at Colonial Nations. So Colonial Nations are forming colonial regions when you call 5 provinces within that region, as long as your capital is not also in that colonial region. So we can have a quick look at the colonial regions. So you can see the different regions there. The map mode for it. Colonial Nations differ slightly when it comes to interacting with the overlords. Oops, wrong tab. So you can see here we've got the Colonial Nations. They don't pay taxes directly, they pay us via tariffs. So you can see their tariff is here. This is a different tax rate, if you like, on Colonial Nations, which you can increase and decrease at the cost of Liberty Desire, and that will dictate how much money the Colonial Nation is paying to its overlord. They are affected similarly with the Liberty Desire system, like other vassals. They have their own set of interactions you can do. Probably the biggest benefits of Colonial Nations is they give 50% of their trade power directly to their overlord, and once they get more than 10 provinces, you can see here, you get a free merchant. They can also declare war on other Colonial Nations as long as their overlords aren't allied. And they can also declare war on natives in the regions they're in, which sets them apart from other subjects because they're free to do these things. Why would you make a Colonial Nation? Well, with Colonial Nations, you don't really have a choice. The only way to not form them is to move your capital to the New World, or to the region that the Colonial Nation will be forming in. But they're very powerful for a colonizer, especially because of the trade power and the extra merchants. You can see here where, without having any provinces over here, we've got 50% in most of these nodes. And we're pushing all that trade back towards the old world. So next up, we want to have a quick look at trade companies. And so to do that, we are going to go over to have a quick look at Portugal. So we've got a couple of provinces down here in a trade company region, which for some reason the AI has cored. So you can see we can add provinces in a trade company region to a trade company. So trade companies are a bit of an abstract form of subject because they don't actually, you don't give up the land. What you do is any land you take in a different continent to your capital can be added to a trade company, and this gives less tax and manpower from the region, but it boosts the production and the trade value and power. They're worth mentioning here because they do have their own set of interactions. So if we go up here and have a quick look, you can see the different trade companies here. So the one we just made is that one there, Portuguese Guinea Company. And specifically, you can get a boost of trade power from them, and the other main reason being that once you get 51% of trade power in the region, you get a merchant from them. So a really, really powerful thing when playing colonizers and any sort of power where you want to drag trade from India and China. Getting those extra merchants, getting those trade power regions under your control, and getting those extra merchants to drag the trade back over to the old world. So last stop for us on the tour of the subjects that are in EU4 is tributaries. So tributaries are a subject that's exclusive to Eastern nations and hordes. They maintain full independence from their overlord, and they can have their own alliances and subjects and start their own wars. If the tributary is attacked, however, by someone who is not also a tributary of the overlord gets a call to arms to defend their tribute. Effectively, the overlord is the protector of the tribute. However, each year the overlord can send a request for tribute to be paid, either in the form of money, admin power, diplo power, military power, or manpower. You can also see some of the interactions there, including demanding double tribute. Now, as long as the tribute continues to accept that tribute that they're paying, everyone's happy, you build trust. If you start refusing, and you refuse enough times, it will actually break the tributary status, and then you can get attacked again to get retributized effectively militarily. Tributes do have their uses, however I find them the most powerful way to use them in my games is actually to become one, particularly when you're playing in an area around somewhere like Ming, where Ming is quite large and will aggressively tributize their neighbors. So you can see Ming's got all these tributes down here. So if we were playing, say, Lana, for example, who isn't a tribute, we wouldn't be able to attack any of these guys because they're all tributes of Ming. But if we became a tribute of Ming, we would be allowed to attack his other tributaries, and we'd also be protected to some extent from external forces and also coalitions, because Generally speaking, coalitions will not form because people will be scared of your overlord if they're big enough. So I find that to be one of the best uses of tributes, not actually tributizing nations, although you can get very powerful by having several large tributes and getting monarch points off them, and a lot of money and manpower. But definitely becoming a tribute, particularly when you've got a big neighbor who can protect you from, and while you expand within their tributes. And that's going to do it. That's our wrap up on subjects in EU4. I hope you've learned a few things and this video has been useful to you guys. I will be back with another video soon in the series. Probably going to start my country guides pretty soon, looking at maybe Castile or France as an opener. So keep a lookout for that video as well. But as always, if you've enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. And other than that, I hope to see you guys sometime in my stream. I'll be playing some EU4 and some other strategy games. And look forward to the next video. And thanks for watching. Bye.